What page is that? 11? 12, okay. All right, so on to food webs. The base of any food web, food chain, any ecosystem is autotrophs, also called producers, because and that in a terrestrial, in a land environment is plants. In an aquatic environment, it's algae. So either seaweed if it's marine or just algae if it's freshwater. You have to have something that produces, that does photosynthesis. And if we talk about primary production, it's how much carbon dioxide is taken out and the sun's energy is turned into sugar. So primary production is how much sugar is produced in an ecosystem. What do we have then? We have a consumer. A consumer, another word for that is a heterotroph, something that eats. So this could be, the grass. This could be a cricket that eats the grass. That would be our primary consumer. It would be an herbivore because it's eating only grass. It could be an omnivore. We could have a mouse here because it could eat seeds and crickets. And again, just, any plant parts, seeds, anything that eats any plant parts, whether it's seeds or roots or leaves or stems or whatever, would be a consumer. The thing that eats the primary consumer is the secondary consumer. So grass to cricket to mouse, field mouse. It eats it's the secondary consumer. It's eating. It's a heterotroph, right? Because it can't make its own food. It could be an omnivore or a carnivore. And if it's hunting something, it's a predator. Well, actually, secondary consumers can be predator, and then we call this even prey. What's the next level? What's after secondary? Tertiary. What's the next level? Quaternary. It's just up the food chain. And you generally don't get any higher than 5 or 6 because of this concept that every level up the food chain, the amount of available energy does what? Decreases by 90%. So only 10% is conserved. Why? Where did that 90% go? Where did that 90% go? When the crickets eat the grass, if there are 10,000 kilojoules of grass, why don't we get 10,000? Why doesn't all 10,000 kilojoules get turned into new cricket mass?
They have to use it.
They have what?
The producers or whatever have to use it, like cellular respiration.
Yeah, so the consumers have to use it in cellular respiration, right? Because it takes energy just being a cricket. So it's going to be cellular respiration. And where does 45 to 55% of that energy go? Why doesn't it just get put right in?
Heat.
Because it gets lost as heat. Remember that second law of thermodynamics increases the entropy. So every time we go up, it gets less and less energy. That make sense? What about the mass as we go up? Does the mass change? Well, biomass changes. If we took the dry weight of all the producers and all the consumers, it would decrease. But the overall mass, for instance, let's say we were measuring the amount of oxygen or carbon in the producers. So measure the amount of carbon in the producers, all the amount of glucose. And then we measured the amount that went to the primary consumers. Would we have as much carbon in the primary consumers? No. But overall, where did that carbon go? It got turned into what would be out here, away from the food chain. Carbon. What do we use carbon for from producers? What carbon is in producers? Glucose. What do these use glucose for? Well, they use it to get energy, but what process? Cellular respiration. So then and then they could turn it into fats or proteins or lipids, but whatever they don't, what's the waste product of cellular respiration that has carbon in it? Carbon dioxide. So then that's going to actually be eaten. Does that make sense? So if you had 100 grams of carbon in the producers, because this would be in glucose, and maybe you're only going to put 50 grams of carbon into here, and this could be into lipids or glycogen or proteins, because remember they're all made of carbon. Where did the other 50 grams go? Where did the other 50 grams go? When we burn up sugar, where does the rest go? Into what? CO2. So again, can we ever, if we start with 100 grams of carbon, we always have to have 50 and 50, we still have 100 grams of carbon. Now this one has 50. Maybe this only gets 10 grams of carbon. Where's the other 40? It's got to be out as CO2. Can we ever get rid of carbon? No. Okay? So you've got to sort of account for it at all times. Make sense? Good. Does that make sense for the food chain, food web, that kind of thing? Okay. Any other questions on this? So the food chains, food webs, energy pyramids, biomass pyramids, pyramid of numbers, any of that kind of stuff. And these couple pages we're at right now.
Wait, what's the definition of just biomass?
Biomass. It's what they really call the dry weight or the dry mass of an organism. So the crazy way they figure this out, they would take sort of an ecosystem and say, okay, here's grass, here's crickets, here's mice, here's snakes. They would take whatever was in that thing, they'd take a sample of it, they would dehydrate it to take out all the water weight and find the mass. And this would be, if this weighed 1,000, kilograms, this would weigh 100 kilograms, this would weigh 10 kilograms, that would weigh 1 kilogram.